All right, so we're going to do imaginary and complex. Tell me before I start, what's the difference in an imaginary number and a complex number?
Imaginary number is fake.
Imaginary number, complex number, real number.
Brandon, I'm so impressed.
No.
A complex number is made up of a real number and an imaginary number. The imaginary number just has the I. What does the I represent?
Negative.
Close.
It means you're taking out the negative.
You take the negative out from under the radical, it's the square root of -1, right? So if I have something like the square root of -4, that becomes
4i. Well,
Positive or negative?
yeah, positive or negative for I, yeah, they would.
not 4. What's the square root of 2?
2.
Oh God, the square root of 4.
Listen to you. I mean, the square root of 4 is 2.
Okay. Y'all with me? That's just a little recap from yesterday with the I's. All right, so the thing I want you to remember is that I is actually a square root, right? So what, yesterday you told me two things that couldn't happen with radicals. You told me you couldn't have a negative under the radical, so we addressed that yesterday.
Have a negative or it's not negative.
You can't have, well, you can, it can be negative, but you can't have the radical in the denominator. You were thinking it right, just saying it wrong. So if I told you that I had something that looked like this, is that an issue?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's like having a square root.
It's like having a square root on the bottom, right? Because I is a square root.
Yeah.
So you times it by yourself again.
Exactly. Well, but we're not going to times it by everything because then it'll be
Times 2i.
not just, think back whenever we had radicals, okay? If I had 5 over the square root of 2,
You're, it's going to be 2, 5 over 2.
The top, when you do the bottom, you did the top.
right,
Yeah.
okay? What if it was 5 over 2 square root of 3?
You can still do it to the top.
What would you be multiplying by, though? The square root of 3, right? Just the radical part, right? I don't need to include the 2 with it. Just the radical part.
5.
Remember that?
Where you get 3 from?
So you just multiply it by what?
Just the radical part. So if I come back over to apply that to my imaginary number here,
Add 2i to the top.
not 2i,
10i.
One
Just
negative,
I.
one square.
look, the radical part, the radical part is the I part, okay? So I multiply the top and the bottom by the I. What happens, what is 2i squared?
2.
Close. Negative 2.
Oh yeah, you take the 2 flip the side.
I'm good having an I in top. I just can't have an I in the bottom.
Wait, why is it -2?
Because you take the 2 and flip the side.
When it's squared like that,
You multiply it. Hold on.
remember the I squared just changes the sign of the number because I squared is -1.
Oh, that's easy.
So you get 2i squared because you
Yeah,
multiply
she know
2i by
Correct.
I.
All right. So let me give you a rule. When you divide by an imaginary, imaginary, you multiply the top and bottom by what? What do we multiply the top and bottom by?
-1.
No, this is not a complex in the bottom. It's just an imaginary. It's something I in the bottom. I'll give y'all a second. Copy that now before we do another example.
Listen to you, Derry. I'm messing with you. I'm trying to be quiet.
Your head is sitting in front of the board.
Hey, you, a little bit.
I'm going to make it harder.
You just keep messing with me.
What's the numerator now? What type of number is the numerator?
Complex number.
What kind of number is the denominator?
Concave.
Imaginary. Concave number. All right, imaginary. So I'm still dividing by imaginary, so I still follow that rule. So do what you got to do. Let's see what you get. I give you a couple minutes. Oh, it's not been recording. Okay, over, it's okay, -5. It recorded the first part, it just didn't record the explanation of this problem. All right, yes, no, maybe so?
That's the answer?
Yes.
That's the answer.
Okay, where are we
Where you
confused?
get a -2 from?
Because you just flipped the signs for the 2i squared.
So you do same change thing.
No.
You just flip the sign and get rid of the I squared.
Can't combine the two first instead of the same I.
The I squared changes the sign of the number.
Because the I is negative.
The I squared is negative, yes.
That's why you change it.
Yes.
Still don't get it.
Yeah.
Which
She said
part?
same, so
Which part? Which part?
I understand.
Let's do another one then. Let's say I had 3 minus 2i over
6. 17.
9i. I've got a complex up top and an imaginary in the bottom. And let me write out all the steps this time and maybe it'll clear things up. If you got it, go ahead and work through it as I work through this one if you're confused. All right, up top, that I, because this is imaginary, I'm multiplying by I. Now up top, I need to distribute this I through. So I get 3i minus 2i squared divided by 9i squared. So all of these with I squareds on them, I want to go ahead and change the sign on them. This was negative, I made it positive. This is positive, I'm going to make it negative.
So you always change it.
Always change it when it's got an I squared hook to it. So in general, I want to write the whole number first, then the imaginary part over negative. Does that make more sense?
How you doing?
I'm done.
That's it.
That's it. There's no I in the bottom. I'm done.
You can't do nothing now.
Can't do nothing else. That's it.
Theoretically.
And so why did you flip it like the 2 and the
Just in general, standard form of a complex number is real number. No, you don't have to. Plus imaginary.
You know how you do 5 plus 5 or something like that? You just change the plus sign to a negative. That's it.
All right. Before I show you division with complex numbers, I want you to multiply a couple things out for me.
Man, it's cold in here. It's not that cold. It's only like 37 degrees. You see right? 37 degrees.
Tell me first, if you look at these as 2 separate problems,
Yes.
okay? What do you notice? What's the pattern here?
They're both wrong.
They are. What else do you notice?
They both got the same number. They got mixed numbers.
They both got the same numbers. What's the difference?
They got mixed signs.
Mixed signs. It's the same binomial with different signs in the middle. I was shaking my head at you. Okay. I want you to multiply out those 2. And let's see what happens, because something special happens when you multiply these 2 things together. When you have complex numbers that are the same except for the sign in the middle.
So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2.
Want to do the first one together and y'all do the second one?
No.
Okay.
Yes. We do the first one. You start the mistakes.
Miss McGee,
Okay.
can you
This right?
Ooh, Darion. Way to be a spoiler.
I just said
It's because both of the thingies are the same number.
They are the same number. All right, watch what happens. I take the first one
Oh, we got 2.
and I distribute it to everything in the second set of parentheses. So 2 times 2 is 2 times negative 3i.
6i.
This piece has distributed to everything here, so I'm done with it. Now move to this one. What is 3i times 2?
6i.
6i.
Positive 6i. And then 3i times negative 3i.
Negative square.
Okay? Remember, change your I squareds.
Positive
Positive 9.
12i.
Okay? Look at the numbers that don't have eyes on them. It's 13.
Yeah.
Now look at the eyes. What is negative 6i plus 6i? 0. It cancels out. What am I left with?
9i squared and 4.
Wait, how did you get?
Just the 13.
What the 13?
How did, yeah,
Bam.
Because it's 4 plus
Say
9.
that?
Negative. With a negative.
I got that.
I got it, I got it.
Bo, stop, Bo. See, you be acting stupid.
This, can you, just like,
1 times 1.
Wait.
1.
1 times 2i, boys.
Plus 2.
Negative 2i times 1.
Negative 2.
Negative 2i plus 2i.
Negative 4i squared.
And so you cross out the 2i. Go ahead and cross them out.
You want me to cross those out first?
And you put the 4 over here because you cross out the
It's
I
gonna be
squared.
positive
I
4
can't
though,
see.
DeAndre.
And then you do 1 plus 4. Right? 1
Yep.
plus 4, that's 5.
Hell, you don't know.
That's how
That is
These are special.
special need.
Not that special.
They're called
Okay, what you call them?
conjugates. Okay? Conjugates, and they're complex numbers, so we call them complex conjugates. Complex conjugates are the same number. The only difference is the sign in the middle is different.
Can I do one on the board?
We're fixing to do a lot of them.
I want to do one on the board.
Basically, these are the ones that we can solve.
I want to do one on the board.
We're going to use these when we're dividing by a complex number. I'm fixing to show you.
Can you plug in for op?
Hello. Alert.
We talked about dividing by imaginary numbers. Now let's talk about dividing by a complex. And I think this is going to make sense to you since we just talked about the conjugates.
Yeah.
Let's say I have, and we're going to do one that's got an imaginary on top and one that's got a complex on top.
So you better
5i, DeAndre, give me a complex number.
6. 5. No, 6 plus 6i.
What's the problem with my fraction?
There's a 6 on the bottom.
There's a 6i on the bottom. I can't have an I on the bottom, right?
Nope. So you got
Ooh, if I multiply by I, it's not going to make the I go away in the bottom.
So you have to square root it. No. You do
Nope.
what you do what you do if it was on the top.
Miss McGee, is your answer negative 5?
Multiply I by pi.
You do it if it was.
If I did that, Cameron, what's going to happen is that then the I is going to, there'll still be an I in the bottom.
Miss McGee, you do it like you would do it on the top.
You minus
I'm
your
trying to
I.
flip it, all right?
And change the sign.
You can't just flip it because you want to. It's still got to stay the same value.
Change the sign and flip the other one.
All right, look at what,
Minus 6i.
listen. Look at what we just did in your notes.
I don't like it.
I'm just trying to get you there without me just telling you what to do.
That's what I'm trying.
And I'm
negative
just,
6i.
you're very, very, very close.
So you have to like multiply by negative 6i.
Close. Very close.
You do what you do if it was on the
No,
top.
no. You said that 5
Square
times.
it.
You just changed.
I just told her that she said it was
Away the
wrong.
I.
No, don't take away the I.
You change the plus. You change the plus to a negative sign.
You got it. But I don't just do that. I have to multiply by that. So I take, if I come here and I change the sign and multiply by that,
Multiply by the whole thing.
yes. Because we just did those and we decided that conjugates, which is what those are, make the I's go away. You end up with just a whole number. But if I do it to the bottom,
You gotta do it to the top. Miss McGee, you know I basically said that you do what you do if it was at the
I
top.
actually said that.
That's what I was trying to say.
That's what you, yeah, that's what I
I'm
was
sorry.
saying too.
Okay.
But you told me it was wrong, but it was right.
All right, so if you're dividing by complex numbers, you must multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate of the bottom. I'll give y'all a second to copy that before we work through this. So let's work our way through it and see what happens.
So you gotta do, okay, 5,
Up at the top, it's a little easier because there's just an imaginary up top, right? So 5i times 6 is...
So you basically just do like a parentheses.
Absolutely.
Minus 30 times squared.
Yep. We'll change all this in just a minute.
36.
Okay, hold on, let me hold up. I got this, I just gotta do the myth.
It's positive
Miss
30.
Vicky, I got some sticky on the bottom of my shoe and it's aggravating.
So they get 30i
All right, if you're working through it, continue. 36
It's gonna be a long problem.
minus 36. Wait till we have a complex in the top instead of a
we start that today too?
same thing, yeah.
Miss McGee, hold on.
Oh, so the 36 cancel out each other.
36i.
And you got negative
You
6.
hold on, Miss McGee.
So the bottom is 72, right?
Wow.
Okay.
All right. If you are not with me and you were working on your own and you looked up and it looks a little like
I get it.
confusing.
No, it's not.
We foiled or distribute out the bottom.
You do
Okay.
multiply stuff.
Multiplied through, we distributed the 5i on top.
Yeah.
So it's just that on top of 72?
Yes.
So it's 30 plus 30i.
We get 72.
All right, look, everybody's jumping ahead. Wait. Everybody's jumping ahead. Wait, Lexi, what?
Why is 36 minus 36i? Why is it not plus?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure
It's
out.
plus 6.
Because this is a negative here, so the first one was positive.
Not that one, the other way.
This 6 here, 6 times negative 6i is negative 36i. All right, Darian. Let's change our I squareds. Negative 30i squared becomes
Come, you kicked me out of your desk. You let him sit there.
plus 30. He's being quiet right now.
Bless you.
Negative 36i squared becomes...
Plus 36.
I'm fixing to. Oh, because you don't... Anything that has an I squared, mark it out and just change the sign of the number. That's all I squared does to the number.
Basically,
Change the sign.
it's the same thing that we learned yesterday, but it's just in a lot more like of a.
That's why I told you I wasn't so worried if you didn't get to all the multiplication because we would
36
practice.
plus 36?
It's 72.
Yeah.
So it's 30.
Negative 72.
Oh, you don't add them together.
Squared.
It's 30i.
Wait, why don't you add this double number?
Here we go. I want you to try this one on your own and then we'll do it together. So quietly try to do this one on your own and then I'll go over the solution. DeAndre. All right, let me have your attention. You check your work with what you did. Some of you have the right answer, some of you don't. That's okay. All right, I'm going to change the sign of the bottom because I need the conjugate. So 3 plus 2i because the only thing I'm worried about is getting the I out of the bottom. If you don't change the sign, you're going to still end up with an I and that's not going to help you any. If I do it to the bottom, only on the bottom one.
So the bottom.
Yes. All right, look, guys. I know y'all are excited, and I know y'all are talking about the problem because I hear you talking about the problem, but when everybody's talking about it, nobody can hear. So look, follow along up here. Yes, ma'am.
Will the top and bottom sign ever be the same?
Nope.
That doesn't, it could be. It could be, it doesn't matter.
You still gonna have to change the sign
All right, let's distribute up top 5 times 3. 5 times 2i, 2i times 3, and 2i times 2i. I always do all my multiplying out and then I come back and change what needs to be changed.
Yeah, what do you gotta do to that 4i squared?
We will in just a minute. Wait.
Actually, it's gonna be 11.
All right, 3 times 3. 3 times 2i.
6i.
Negative 2i times 3. And negative 2i times 2i.
So it's 11-4.
Oh, wait, what? I'm an idiot.
Yeah, 11-16.
All right. First thing I'm going to do is change all my I squareds because I can mark those out and do those right here. This, negative 4. How about this one?
Positive 4.
All right. Look at the numerator. That's the top.
69 plus 11.
I've got 15 and negative 4.
11.
11 plus 16i.
My I's.
11 over.
And then over 13.
Absolutely. The I's cancel here. 9 and 4.
Alright, are we doing our class
Well,
work
we
now?
do the bottom. Wait, what?
That's it. I'm done.
Give us an easy one to do. Let DeAndre do one.
I'm fixing to give you 6 of them to do.
Let DeAndre do one.
Whoa!
Okay.
Hey, let DeAndre do one first.
You heard they want the crowd wanted to do one.
For you real quick, because this is where you're going to get confused. There's 2 scenarios that you're going to encounter. One, if you divide by an imaginary. Remember the difference in imaginary and complex. The other is if you divide by a complex.
Like a complete.
Now, what we just did is complex, right?
The one we just did is complex.
And the one we
If
did before that, imagine.
correct. If you divide by imaginary, that means the only thing is an I, there's no plus or minus there. All you have to do is multiply the top and bottom by what? By what?
Top and bottom. Top and bottom.
No, if you're dividing by an imaginary number.
Oh.
So 5 over 2i
You're dividing the I.
by I. Okay? But if you're dividing by a complex, you have to multiply the top and bottom, somebody in the back said it, by the conjugate. That means change the sign, right? You want to put that in parentheses. Change
The sign.
the sign
Yep.
of the bottom.
Yep.
Not both signs, only the middle sign. Okay?
It was